Many women tell me that they're just fed up with online dating, especially when they're trying to find a long-term partner. Yes, they can get dates, but they tell me that they struggle with finding the quality of man that they're looking for. And then they say that their ideal situation would be to meet somebody in person, where maybe a man comes up and talks to them, and then they just hit it off in the moment, and it's basically like a storybook romance. Of course they would take a relationship from online, but many women feel like it's just not as special to tell, your family and friends that you met somebody from the internet. And if you're a woman watching this video, you probably don't want to be the one that actually goes up and introduces yourself to a man and takes the first shot just for one reason or another. You'd much rather a guy kind of take that first step and a connection unfold from there. I'm Nick Notas, and today I want to teach you my 5-step method to getting quality men to approach you so that you can eventually find the man of your dreams. Now, before we get into the 5 practical steps, I just want to give you one mindset that will change everything for you, and that's understanding why men don't come talk to you. I talk to guys from all across the world, many times in really powerful positions, and they tell me that still their biggest fear is walking up to a random woman and introducing themselves because they don't know how receptive she'll be. They're just worried that they're going to bother them, that they're going to weird them out or upset them or even creep them out, and so they just generally won't take that shot unless they know that that woman is open to talking. So your primary strategy is to show men that you're open to being talked to, and then a lot of them will start taking it from there. And I know you probably don't want to be forward and throw yourselves at them and make a fool of yourself, and that's not what I'm talking about. You just have to find little ways to show that you're willing to explore a connection. So rather than doing the approaching, you need to be giving out approach invitations. So let's dig into it and give you the 5 practical steps to getting more quality men to approach you. Number 1 is to be in the right environments in the first place. Now, if you've tried in the past to meet men at just general bars or clubs or random parties, you may feel like you're not getting that caliber you're looking for. And that's true. Yes, you can find your life partner in those environments, but it's generally less likely that they'll be there. Because when you're talking about a quality partner, and I've said this in my other video about finding a man who's ready to commit, you're probably looking for a man who's just in general more stable in his life. He's probably got a decent job. He's emotionally available. He's ready for something long-term in his future. He's a little bit cultured. He gets out more than just partying and actually lives life and maybe has a social lifestyle. And so you have to think about, where do those men spend their time? They're probably not getting drunk every Friday and Saturday night at a little dive bar. And while you might see some quality men walking out and about in your daily life, even with approach invitations, it's really hard for those guys to take a shot in that setting because it just doesn't feel like a designated social space. So you need to get more strategic about where you're going out to, whether that's alone or with your friends. I want you to think of going to any classes where you build skills like cooking or photography, or fitness like yoga and CrossFit. I want you to think about going to art and culture events like a museum night or an art gallery opening or an author meetup, or even like the Moth where they're doing slam poetry. If you do like to go out for a nice drink, I would focus more on cocktail lounges and hotel bars. If you're somebody who travels, doing this in airports or the airport lounge can be really effective. If religion is really important to you, I would consider going to church social events or volunteering. You can go to any place where people are trying to better themselves, like a bookstore or a co-working space or a meditation retreat or any kind of speaker conference, nicer clothing stores, or even any athletic clubs or hiking groups. You just have to consider places where men are going to improve themselves or their lives, and not just to get drunk and party up and hook up for a night. Number 2 is to have warm and open body language. A lot of women don't realize that in social spaces, they can unintentionally look unapproachable. And if a man just even speculates that you don't want to be talked to, he won't do it. So you need to go out of your way and proactively show that you're in a social mood. That means you don't keep your arms crossed, but you actually open them up or keep them down by your side while you're talking. You're not just sitting there with an upset resting face, which I understand that sometimes might be your natural kind of way you look, but just at least have a neutral face on. You don't have to pretend to be smiley, but you have to at least look like it's okay. I'm not going to rip your head off if you come and say hi. Don't be buried in your phone or a book the whole time. Take a break to just put it down and kind of look up, maybe talk to your friends or take in the environment. Because if your head's down, most guys think that's an absolute no chance in hell situation. You want a man to look at you and assume you're going to be happy and friendly and not cold and curt. And it's because a lot of men have had those situations where they've gone and approached a woman and she's been really, really standoffish or really rude to them for one reason or another. And that just feels devastating. And And I'm telling you, some guys experience that just like a couple of times, and it prevents them from ever putting themselves out there again. So leave no room for doubt that you're a social, welcoming person. Number 3 is to position yourself closer to them. Most men will tell you that if a woman's like across the room at an event, even if they want to go say hi, they just won't. It feels like crossing the desert, right? It just feels awkward. They're like, oh, she's going to see me walking across the whole room, and it feels weird, and I just don't have that permission. But if you're right next to them, they feel like they have that context. It feels natural, and it just gives them so much more courage to actually say hi. So if you're at a social gathering and you scope out like a group of guys that you might want to talk to or a certain person, then I would go over and walk over with your friends casually, or go grab a drink next to them wherever you're at, and just kind of position yourself in their general vicinity. Whenever we have a higher barrier at entry to do something, we're less likely to do it. So if you decrease your physical distance, you increase your chance of him saying hi. It also makes it much easier to do my next point, number 4, which is to smile and give a little eye contact. So let's say you're standing around a guy that you like right now. Occasionally you'll be sipping your drink, you'll have nice warm open body language, and then all of a sudden you just casually glance up in his direction. Now if he catches your eyes, you hold that for a second, maybe you give him a little bit of a smile, and then you go back to what you're doing. That little signal makes a guy think, wait a sec, did she look at me? Was she actually wanting to talk to me? Was she acknowledging me? And that can help spur him to kind of take that next step. Yeah, a guy will come talk to you if you've never made eye contact, but it just gives that little extra nudge so that he actually does it. Now, sometimes that still won't be enough, and that's where you do the double take eye contact. That's where you've looked over, maybe you've glanced at each other, you've kind of had a gentle smile, and you look back, and then a little while later, maybe a few seconds or a couple of minutes later, you glance back up, your eyes meet again, you have that smile on, and then you go back to what you're doing. That second look removes all ambiguity of why you were looking at them. You know, sometimes when they first see a woman make eye contact, they're like, oh, maybe she was just being friendly, or maybe she was looking at somebody else. Okay, but when you do it a second time, it reinforces, hey, I'm actually trying to connect with you, and I'm looking at you, and so maybe I want to talk to you. Now, sometimes you'll do all 4 of those things, and guys won't take the hint, and they might not come talk to you. So I'm going to give you my final technique that almost always works, and that's step 5, which is to give a simple offhand comment. Now again, I understand you probably don't want to make it obvious and throw yourself at him like, hey handsome, but this is actually much more subtle and feels really organic. So let's say you're at some venue and there's a guy right next to you and you just turn to him and say, do you know what time this place closes? Or maybe you're in a really nice high-end coffee shop and you turn to the guy next to you and say, oh my God, that sounds amazing. Have you tried that new apple cinnamon latte? Maybe you're out somewhere and you see a guy with his dog and you say, what a cute dog, what's his name? Or you're at a nice clothing shop and you turn to the person and say, hey, what do you think of these shoes? Do you like them? All you're trying to do is open the door. And if a guy's interested, he'll often continue the conversation. And it's not like you're trying to make it obvious that you want to connect in a romantic sense. You're just making a random statement or question about something in the moment that feels completely unrelated, and all of a sudden you two start talking organically, and he'll often feel like it's his idea. Sneaky, sneaky. Listen, I always tell people to go after what they want, and that applies here. If you want to find a quality man, you need to take a proactive stance, and you don't have to feel like you just need to passively wait and hope that a guy comes and says hi. You just have to throw a dog a bone and wait for a bite.